Welcome, Juventini, to the All Juvecast, and this is episode 144. And obviously, we would have wished for some better circumstances to be discussing, but not all hope is gone with an away goal. But we're going to cover this match, and I see a lot of people in the live here already right off the bat. And we have a great guest joining us to try and recap what happened in the first leg versus Porto, and that's Maurizio from Around Turin. Maurizio, it's good morning over here. I did believe it's afternoon there, but how are you doing today?
Alberto, thanks a lot for the invitation. Yes, it's 2 p.m. now, but for you it's much earlier, 5 a.m.
You betcha, 5 a.m. here.
And I guess you didn't sleep very well after yesterday's game as well.
Man, that's a tough one, very, very frustrating match for all Juventini. And you know what? I usually watch them twice. I could not put myself through it. I couldn't on this one. There was nothing to see twice. You didn't need to watch it twice for this one, but we'll go through it all here, my man. We'll start with the lineups. There was a key little switch there by Pirlo involving our forwards. So the rest of the lineup, with some of the injuries we'd had, Bonucci, Artur, and whatnot, seemed to shape up pretty good. At the back line, there were some shouts for Demiral and De Ligt to be the combination at the start. And then the midfield was pretty much settled with Bentancur, Rabiot, McKennie, Chiesa playing, which was great. And then up top, you had Kulusevski rather than Morata. For me, at the back with De Ligt and Chiellini, I was fine with it, but everybody was kind of weary about Chiellini playing in quick succession with his injury history. And then up top with Morata, that's a tough one. Morata has been on a bit of a slump, but in Champions League, he's got great numbers. And Kulusevski still has some questions left unanswered. So I want to get your thoughts on the starting lineup, Maurizio, before the match even started, how you're feeling, what you thought about Pirlo's setup.
Yeah, look, you summed up pretty well. My main concern, just as you said, was mainly for Morata. But to be honest, then Pirlo explained that he didn't feel very well. So that's why actually he selected Kulusevski in the end. But clearly Morata is an animal for Champions League games, and he proved in the first 6 games, but also in the last 50 minutes he played. I think the lineup, the biggest gap we had entering into the last 16 games, so one of the most important appointments of the season was really missing a striker, because that's it. I mean, Ronaldo is not a striker as we intended, a classic number 9, as well as Kulusevski. So the only one was Morata, and we were even missing him. So clearly that didn't help also when we immediately got the goal, because we were supposed at that point to attack in a very massive way. For the other part of the lineup, I agree with you. I mean, behind with the Chiellini and the Ligt was kind of expected. As you say, there are no big complaints. I mean, you can, if they are fit, to be honest, you can rely on any of the 4 defenders we have. But it didn't work out very well with Chiellini once again. No, the only gap that I still see, and also yesterday in the lineup, is that, as always, let's say this time Chiesa was put on the right wing, which is his natural position. But then again, we didn't have no one in the natural position as a left wing. So we had to play with McKennie playing between the lines. I mean, it wasn't really fluid at all. That's it. I mean, the lineup gave me this kind of indication at the beginning.
Yeah. So I mean, we went through a match day live. We were talking, trying to get some feelers out there for how the score would end up. I was calling a tight one. I figured it'd be 2-1 there for Juve, but I did see us at least still coming out victorious in this one. But the match begins, and my God, you couldn't, unbelievable. This match, I mean, in the first half, we don't even really have a lot to discuss because it was such a flat half. Porto was so comfortable They literally, as my friend Antonio was saying, they played it in their slippers. Basically, they were so comfortable off the ball, and Juve was so slow and flat. But Bentancur, Bentancur.
It was almost like a joke, you know. We were waiting for this game now since 2 months or something like that. And after a few seconds, we found ourselves into this shit situation and was like, what? I mean, how is it possible, you know? And
Yeah.
because you knew in that extra time, you knew that the things were going to be much more complicated, you know?
Yeah.
So it was like...
It was almost surreal that first half, because it was like everything that Juventini were wary of and were discussing prior happened. Bentancur with a terrible giveaway. This time it actually cost us a goal. Chiellini injuring himself again in the 35th minute, having to exit. The one luxury Juventus has, again, is that the guy coming off the bench is Meri Demiral, which I like. I have a good enough amount of faith in him, so I wasn't concerned about that, but it sucks to lose Chiellini again. And then really the first half was so flat after that from Juventus. I just saw us continue to try playing out of the back, even after the mistake that took place early on. A little bit frustrating, but it is what it is. You know, Pirlo wants to play that possession game. But then the lack of commitment to attack is what I saw the most. So Porto did a good job of isolating Ronaldo. In that situation, I would have liked to see the midfielders get more involved. McKennie was struggling quite a bit. I'm a big fan of Weston McKennie's, but he was really, really a step off every time he got the ball. And I think maybe that hip injury that they were talking about with McKennie is maybe still lingering, because he looked a step off the entire match. The only real opportunity I think we had in the first half was an overhead kick by Rabiot. And Rabiot actually, he worked pretty hard. I was actually okay with Rabiot, but there's not much to talk about in the first half. It was so flat from Juventus, but I just saw the lack of drive, lack of commitment, and Chiesa even spoke to it after the match, and he said the desire was not there. And that's really concerning for many Juventini, especially when you're talking about a Champions League match, you know. And I want to get your thoughts kind of first half and what you're thinking. Was there any changes you would have liked to see? Because for me, I said at halftime, you bring in Morata, but I would have left Kulusevski on. Because if Porto was comfortable to sit back, especially after we fall one behind, I would have taken McKennie out, who was struggling massively, and I would have put Morata in and shifted Kulusevski to play out of our midfield in a 3. That's the only thing I could have thought of that maybe would have helped us in terms of attacking balance and getting support out of the middle. But what were your thoughts at halftime, Maurizio?
But first of all, I was expecting really a completely change in the pace. But in reality, they entered in the pitch, and 18 seconds later, we were end up in the same situation as in the first half. No, the first half was, to me, pretty horrible, to be honest. Yes, Cristiano was, let's say, left alone, but the main concern, as always, is the midfield, which at a certain point was completely bypassed by these long balls from the defense. So it was very easy to control our game style from Porto. So the midfield is we are always in the same situation, because without Arthur we lack even more, and we ask Bentancur to do a job that he is not supposed to do, because to be honest, he's not supposed to play in that way, and that's why also he doesn't feel comfortable, and he makes mistakes. So it's he made a very big mistake, but it's not all on him. I mean, also the way that he's asked to do something that he's not capable to do. That's the point.
That's a good call. You know, I mean, ultimately, you can't help but think if Artur was in there, that obviously I would say doesn't happen. He's just so strong in possession, and we could have played out of the back much easier with him, because he's so strong on the ball, and he's just very, very comfortable in doing that. He gives us that edge. We didn't have that, so it kind of hurts. But Bentancur, a lot of Juventini were jumping on him, and I believe the criticism is deserved. But you bring up a good point. He's asked to do a job he's not meant to. But honestly, the entire team, from top to bottom, was so flat. There was no drive, like Chiesa said, right?
And one point, Alberto, very quick. Chiesa said something interesting, and we knew about this. I mean, for many players, it was the first time to be in a kind of game like this, in the last 16 game of Champions League. And apparently some of them suffered that. Kulusevski is one of them. Chiesa is another one. So we should also consider that for many young players, it was the first time. That goal after 1 minute didn't help at all to boost the confidence. They actually became afraid of every ball they were touching at a certain point. Only with the time they were getting a little bit more confident. And then again, the other goal that again made everything, fuck up. Sorry.
Yeah, and then and that's just it. We're talking about changing that attitude, the approach in the second half, coming out at least guns blazing. Try and recover it. And my God, right out of the hop at the second half there. And Porto, to be honest, I see everybody trying to point fingers, trying to find out who's to blame for this second goal. Porto actually did a really, really good job on the second goal. They threw an extra player out on that side. There was a mismatch. There was an overlap. And we were outnumbered by one player. In that scenario, Sandro should have communicated with the midfielders especially. And he didn't. He allowed that player to stay out on the wing and take that space, and he tried to split them. The second that ball came through, Sandro was toast because he had two guys, 2-1, because he didn't call back that mid. After that, yes, the midfielders could have tried to get back, but you could see it. It wasn't there. Those guys had their steps. Porto jumped all over it, and at the back, it's hard. I see people blaming Demiral, saying that's his man. He was stuck between two guys too, because the second Sandro and the mids got beat, he was split between the guy in front of goal or the pass. The guy could have came in and shot. He split it, and De Ligt at that time could have come over. But again, that communication would have had to come from Danilo, because De Ligt is watching a guy right next to him too. So we got caught in an outnumbered situation because
if in a Champions League game you get a goal after 18 seconds, you enter on the pitch. You can talk about all the tactical and technical.
Oh yeah,
but it's a problem of mentality, of the approach. They weren't just ready to fight from the first second, and that's the most worrying thing, because you are in Champions League and that's your main target for the season. You are already 1 goal down, and you enter like that. No good.
No, it can't happen. That's 2 goals at the start of each half where we're just sleepwalking, and it's frustrating. They're gifts. And a team like Porto that defends well, that's just tough. That's tough to deal with. And after that, honestly, we did it again. And you talk about it. You brought up a great point on how they were scared. They had that shock after the first goal. And a couple of the guys, you could see it in them. Second half, they start like that. And then several minutes later, 51st minute, a Porto player is allowed to just walk right up the middle of the pitch pretty much. Yeah. And he ends up taking a shot. Right, and I'm thinking, who's going to attack this guy?
At that point, I was speechless. I was like, okay, do whatever you want, because at this point, we are completely gone mentally.
It was unbelievable. So Szczesny makes the save there. We managed to come through unscathed. And then 63rd minute, Morata comes in. And McKennie is the one that subbed out. And I thought that was right, because McKennie could not make an impact in this one. And from there on, you see what Morata brings. Even if he's not 100%, you see what he can do and what he brings and what it does for the other players when he's out there. And then, honestly, we're still trying to work through, but we still don't get that push. It looks a little better, but Porto's allowing us to control because they're comfortable. In the 77th minute, Ramsey actually comes in for Kulusevski. 79th minute, we actually concede a free header at the back post. And we keep talking about these situations. It's shocking for this match. Pirlo even said it, like, for Bentancur, regardless of a guy doing a job he's not asked to do, like he shouldn't be doing. You can't afford mistakes like that in this competition. It's suicide, to let this stuff go. Free headers at the back post, crazy stuff. But 81st minute, I talked about wanting to see that commitment, that drive. Well, in the last 10 minutes, Juve did it. We found a goal. How did we find it? We committed to the attack. You see Rabiot make a streaking run, getting involved. Sandro plays him through with a great ball. He crosses it over to Chiesa, who does a great job to finish. This is a lifeline for Juventus. And some could say an undeserved lifeline, but nonetheless, we have a goal. And for me, there has to be risk to be rewarded, right? It's risk and reward. You have to get these midfielders involved. It was too easy for Porto to shut down Ronaldo, and we had no answer, And then the 90th +3. Is that a penalty?
Yeah, to me, yes. All the way.
For me, no question. Absolutely.
Yes.
Absolutely. So Pirlo spoke to it after, and apparently the referee had said there was no time. Bullshit. Even if there wasn't. First of all, the play went on for another 45 seconds or whatnot, almost a minute.
No, but that was a bullshit. Simply didn't want to call it. Probably saw Ronaldo a little bit, losing the ground. But in reality, that's a penalty because, there was a clear contact. Ronaldo could still have reached the ball, so no discussion about it.
No discussion for me. Vishwajit come in, not a penalty. So here's the thing. The only defense I've seen for people saying it's not a penalty is that Ronaldo was already going down. I thought at quick glance, watching it live first time, I said, oh, it looks like he was going down. But when you watch on the replays, and this is what the whole point of VAR is supposed to be, when you watch on the replay, you see the move, the way he traps the ball. He's in a natural position because he's leaning back to stop, and his feet are planted. He's not slipping.
No, but then to me, it's not about if he was falling down or not. Even if the ball was still there, he could have stand up and take the ball.
Yeah, it's just that defender, you have to be, by rule, you have to be in control of yourself. And he wasn't. He was clumsy on that one, and he went right through him. It's a clear penalty. Yeah. There's no and you've seen this exact same call called a number of times across matches everywhere. Has to be a penalty. Nonetheless, it finishes 2-1. It's a very frustrating day, but honestly, even in terms of the penalty call, it should have never really gotten to that point. We had the wrong approach, everything. It was very, very frustrating. But VAR in Champions League, are you seeing a difference in compared to domestic leagues? Because I kind of am. And some of the comments that were being made after is, you can't call that in a Champions League match. That makes no sense to me. There has to be a consistency amongst the game right across all the leagues.
Sure, absolutely. No, to me, it was a penalty. The goal by Chiesa is definitely vital because otherwise, with a 2-0, I was afraid that with this type of team, we were not going to make it. Now I think we have very good chances to advance, regardless everything, because still we just need one goal. We have the potential to do it. In the last 15 minutes, we actually could have scored even a couple of more times. So I'm pretty sure we can make it. But the point is, what is next? Even if we advance, playing in this way, where we always have the wrong mentality and wrong approach, even if it's an important game, that's worrying. When you have to face teams that have 2, 3, 4 attackers and we don't even have one, that can play a crucial game, then is tough.
Yeah, and that's kind of it. It's that's the feeling many Juventini have now is what's next? Should we advance? Porto was a side we were favored against, and this is how we come out and whatnot. How's it going to get better? Are certain players going to be able to make a difference on the next step? It's tough to see, and it's been Jekyll and Hyde for the most part with Juventus for quite some time now. And, we get into some player performances and some things because it always comes down to players for people. But the first question, which I was shocked to see this out there from Juventini, and it's Pirlo got everything wrong, is what I was reading a lot of, and a lot of blame going to Pirlo. From the lineup, and we kind of discussed it, as far as options go, he didn't really have much outside of what he did, So I think in terms of saying Pirlo got it all wrong, I can't really agree that he got it all wrong. And especially if after the fact, the one shout we could have made, which was Morata, and I made the shout at halftime, well, the guy passed out and fainted after the match, so he clearly wasn't with it. So it's hard, but your thoughts on people saying Pirlo gets all the blame on this, he got it all wrong?
I'm never in favor of these drastic messages, simply because, guys, Bentancur made a mistake after 1 minute. Pirlo prepared a certain type of game, and everything was gone after a player error that has nothing to do with Pirlo. So, again, the guys found themselves in a position to play a totally different game, which was ideal for Porto, so that is even worse. And on top of that, if you add the insecurity that we had after that error, it's difficult to blame only Pirlo about this. When these kind of things happen, it's never the fault of one, at least for my way of thinking.
Yeah, and I agree. I mean, again, we talk about the options he had. That was pretty much the strongest lineup he could have played at that time, outside of two guys. You give yourself an option off the bench, and Morata, when you find out he's ill, makes perfect sense. So it's very, very hard to be putting it all on Pirlo there. In terms of player performances, I want to talk about a few players in particular that were discussed. For me, Alexandro is not a player we can rely on as we did in years past. That's just me, but I think this is one of the frustrating things in terms of Juventus, for me anyways, is that it feels like we always have gaps in the roster, and that we always have these certain holes. Sandro, for me, I don't know, man. He looks gassed to me even at the beginning of games, and it's becoming an issue. But he took over the armband from Chiellini when he leaves, but I have a different vision of guys when they captain, and you see the second goal, the way it happens, and it's on his flank, and he's not communicating with another single player on that team. And that to me is just so frustrating. And if we're going to bank on him, for me, I'm sorry, but like Danilo and Cuadrado in our strongest lineup on the outsides. What do you think in terms of Sandro? Is he in your strongest lineup as that left side if everybody's fit?
That's the point. Alessandro is the only left fullback we have. So he's going to play unless he's injured. When he's not there, Bernardeschi even played there if Danilo had to play on the right. So I agree with you. Definitely there is a drop in performance compared to 2-3 years ago. Is a trend, what we see in Alexandro. We definitely need something better in that position if we want to perform in a certain way. Let's say still he's a kind of reliable fullback if you don't expect nothing big from him. But if you want to position yourself as a Champions League contender, then we are talking about a totally different thing.
Yeah. Yeah, and that's the thing, right? Is just trying to make sense of it all, and then it's always about players right away, and the biggest thing is that's concerning for me is why can't we get the approach and the mentality right? Why does this keep creeping up?
Because,
And
because Alberto, we are a team that somehow is winning since 9 years, and you don't have the anger and the desire to win something at any cost. So they play even the new players when they training with the others, when they see the environment, they get into this mentality. Plus, they are a Juventus. They know that sooner or later they will score a goal. This it doesn't always happen. But the point is that from mentally point of view, this team is arrived at a point where to be able to win something, they really need to have a special motivation to do it. Otherwise, guys, 9 years in a row mentally is devastating. It's very good, but it's devastating if you want to win a game.
yeah, so you see this team as basically somewhat complacent, and you think that the young guys, even though that we're adding a good young mix, it's almost like they feel this sense of entitlement or that the winning's just going to come, right?
And one more thing, I was mad with Chiesa, but Chiesa is an example. Yesterday, when we were down 2-0, there was a free kick for us, a corner kick for us, and Chiesa was going there slowly, without the feeling the pressure to score at least one goal. I was there like, come on, go and in a hurry. So we might have another chance later on. He was relaxed, but not because they knew that they were going to score. Simply because that is the environment they are at the moment. They don't feel the urgency and the need to win absolutely. Because anyway, they already won 9 years in a row.
Yeah. And Georg coming in with the comment that these 9 years have spoiled us too much. We should be better in Europe, especially. You won't win just because you're Juventus. It's one of the things I said at the beginning of the season with Pirlo. Many uncertainties with a first-time manager, especially in a hotbed like Juventus. But I said his biggest challenge will be the mentality of this team because of that history, because of that win streak, and just the overall play was becoming stale. I said he's going to have a real hard time shifting this team because the main core of this team has won so much, and it's come relatively easily other than last season under Sarri. I still don't know how we won that Scudetto, to be honest. It's crazy because our play has been lacking. So in terms of Pirlo, the play, has the play progressed? Is the play at least better or whatnot? Is it just the mentality that needs to finish off what he's trying to do here?
There are so many variables, and one of them, don't forget about that, is that we play every 3 days.
Yeah.
The team didn't have any time to train at the beginning of the season. Pirlo was at the first season ever as a coach. He's getting this huge team to coach, a lot of big players and young players as well. Guys, it takes time for a coach to implement his style, especially if you cannot have the chance to train between the different games. So yeah. I'm normally very positive as a person. Okay, so I believe that Pirlo is trying to do his best with the player he has. Still, we are in the run to in all the competition. We are still there fighting in all the competitions, and we changed so many players that if by chance we arrive at the end of the season winning a Super Cup, a Coppa Italia, trying to compete with the Scudetto till the end, and hopefully advance at least to the last 8 in Champions League, I think it could be already satisfying for Pirlo as a coach, okay? Because then you start the next season with much more experience, not only for you as a coach, but also for the young players, and you can really try to build something on that. But if we expect always to win, even when we change the coach, with all these variables around, it's a little bit naive.
Yeah. I think, yeah, it's it's tough because you're also watching some other teams go through the same thing, have tight schedules and congestion and whatnot. But again, Pirlo being new is that kind of oddity, not that you can't compare to these other clubs because he had no preseason and he's had to deal with a lot of injuries, like Lewis put in his comment. This team and injuries is unbelievable.
Yes, especially when it comes to the topic part of the season.
Always. It's just always been something this team has had to deal with. In terms of the match, and you talked about being frustrated watching Chiesa go slowly to this corner kick, whatnot. What I found very, very frustrating, and it would drive me nuts as a manager, is the scenarios where, and this is the one thing, while I'm a big fan of Chiesa, I hate how it's always arms up, looking for every single call, and sometimes going a little too soft and whatnot. And I think it's plays in a bit to that entitlement, and Ronaldo does it quite a bit, quite a lot. And it's like Ronaldo lost the ball quite a few times, and I saw no drive to win it back. The guy's still just like a few steps away. Don't throw your arms up right away. Try to win it back. Like the attitude. It has to start with those big guys, and that's frustrating to watch when we would spend more time lobbying for calls instead of putting your head down and getting dirty and work for it, right? And we just need a bit more of that. And it's frustrating because sometimes you see it and sometimes you don't. There was a match a couple weeks back where Ronaldo was fighting back for the ball and he was going back and he was working hard. You saw Bernardeschi tracking back and he was fighting for it and getting back. And then there's matches where it looks like maybe they could care less. And that's the frustrating part. That's the demoralizing.
But also within one specific match, like for example, yes, there are different periods. You could see that at a certain point Cristiano was frustrated. He was even hitting Juventus player when running. I mean, there are some periods within the games that are like that. But then, for example, in the last 50 minutes, he was actually fighting back because he saw that the team was also working in a different pace, So
yeah.
To me, yesterday, we were extremely unlucky with the first goal and with the second. And that was a bad. Everything is consequent to that, to me, in the game of yesterday. Still, what I regret and I don't accept is that even after those big errors, there wasn't a strong reaction from the team. The one that you would expect if you are about to be eliminated from a Champions League. Because yesterday, guys, on the 2-0, we were close like this to be out of Champions League. And the goal of Chiesa, we were trying to play a little bit, but it almost came by chance. And it was also missing, by the way.
Yeah. And that's the thing. It's just it's crazy to think that just like that you get bounced. But honestly, again, the trend as of late, and I don't know, this was my concern after we got a couple back-to-back matches where we went into this defensive shell. Are some of these guys going to fall back into old methods, old habits, old ways? Are we going to start to lose the balance? It was a concern of mine.
The risk is there, especially when you play Chiellini and Bonucci, they play much more defensively. If you have the Elite and the Miral, they try to push a little bit more and defend higher on the pitch. So, of course, the risk is there, especially if you are comfortably with that style of playing and you win, even 1-0, but you win. Mentally, you tend to go to your comfort zone. That's pretty natural. I think there is Pirlo where he needs to step up a little bit and say, guys, we need to play a little bit up front.
Yeah, the balance needs to be there because we went on a good streak, we were doing well, and then all of a sudden the chance creation just diminished, and we were already only sitting in a spot of about 6th best in Serie A as far as chances created. And now all of a sudden it's like, wow, it's diminished even more. And it's like, we need to restore that balance. But this is one of the things I see with Pirlo's setup. And it might take some time for him to get the right guys, because it looks like a different team based on the personnel. I don't think he can implement the style he wants to see out of this team game in, game out, because it changes drastically based on his personnel. And that just comes down to the guys he has. You talked about it earlier, a guy like Bentancur. We have been doing this for a while, and this kind of plays into what I was talking about earlier in terms of the rostering gaps. We seem to always try to fit that, square peg into a round hole, as far as players go, and try to sometimes make them something that they're not. And it's kind of frustrating, but it's really highlighted in Pirlo's system, because there's a couple profiles of players he simply doesn't have, and it's tough. So to put it all on him, whatnot, and put it on the players we have, it's a bit of everything, like you discussed earlier. I think you said it quite well, because players are being asked to do things they may not be comfortable with, and it takes time to adapt and learn it.
And now Alberto, we pretty much understood that Arthur is a key for this team at the moment. We saw the statistic. We lost 6 games when he was out, something like that. But I'm worrying on the way forward, because he's gonna miss a few more games, Arthur, for sure. And we have key games ahead. So now it's the time where we cannot really miss other points in Serie A, or do a bad game in Champions League, because then we are out. So to me, again, is a sign that the squad, the team, wasn't built properly. So we can talk a lot about Pirlo's fault or whatever, but in the end, as you say, he's playing with the players he has. Yesterday, he probably put the lineup that we were all expecting to play, except for maybe 1 or 2 cases, but that's a coach choice.
Yeah.
We are going to miss Arthur, and who is going to play instead of him? Fagioli. Good, but Fagioli is an under 23 player, guys. And we are asking him to suddenly become a Juventus player that is bringing us to the glory of Champions League and Serie A.
Absolutely. And this is one of the things, because that shout, you see the posts all over social media. It's Fagioli time. It's time for Fagioli. Look, one Coppa Italia match against Spal is not the be-all, end-all. You still haven't seen this kid under pressure, put under. He had so much space and time in there. It came relatively easy. So I still need to see more. Can he get some minutes? Sure, but we shouldn't depend on that by any means. I do agree with this from Idris here coming in. All he cares about is the attitude. I struggle to see this from the players. They have the attitude of Barca 2009 with nothing to show for it. I had a good discussion with a Juventino there this morning, actually, and I said, for me, we could have lost the match, but I want us to lose putting our best foot forward. And the fact that we don't always do that, that's the frustrating part. If we had the fight, we had the desire, and it just didn't work out, and we actually gave it everything, we risked a bit, we were committed, it's easier to swallow, right? But the fact that it hurt, it's a tough
it's a right observation, but still I want to say one thing. This is a crazy season for every team. If you look at all the main teams this season, basically, probably except for Bayern, basically all of them had a period where they were doing really bad. Manchester City, not so much, but all the others, yes, Barca, Real, Liverpool, PSG as well. So it's a very critical season. You cannot always expect that they play at 100%, for sure, but the attitude should always be there. Like against Napoli, in the first half, we were walking on the pitch. Like we were thinking, okay, Napoli has a lot of injured players. In the second half, we will score for sure. But it's not always the case. You need to show attitude and desire to win. Especially if you come from behind, you need to have you need to recover points. I would expect that if you are +10, but not if you are -8.
Yeah, I agree. I agree. Reminder for everyone joining us here. There's been a lot of great comments and whatnot. We've got about 20 minutes here remaining with Maurizio. So any questions you have, get them in here on the chat. Okay. One topic I did want to discuss with you, Maurizio, is Dybala. He is back on the team sheet. He's most likely set to face Crotone on the weekend. Will he be able to have an impact we are hoping for this season? And what do you think in terms of him and the future with Juve?
I was lucky enough to meet Dybala last week. I will tell more in the next days. I cannot say too much, but I saw him personally, and he wasn't ready. And yesterday, indeed, he didn't play. And don't expect that Dybala, when he will come back to play, he will become the Dybala we want like this, because Dybala is one of those players that needs time. So we need to be patient, and hopefully he will be back in 4, 5, 10 days. We start to get some minutes on the legs, but before we see the real Dybala, we will need to wait. And the point is, by the time he will be there, are we be still in the competition in Serie A and Champions League? It was a very negative season for Dybala, very unfortunate. And this will definitely also have an impact on the contract renewal that is still managing. I don't know much, to be honest, about that. I know, just like you, the situation is a little bit on hold, a lot of discussion ongoing, but clearly, a season like this, it won't help, especially if certain financial demands are the same.
Yeah, and it's been a crazy shift in terms of the fans' view of Dybala, just because of the contract news and the financials and all that. And it's crazy how he's become this scapegoat almost, and just everybody's so quick to say sell him and whatnot. And I don't know. For me, I just look back at the years and what he's given us overall, and I think he's huge. He was big for us in several Scudetti that we won, especially in crunch time, scoring big goals. Last season, rightfully so, winning MVP in my opinion. This season has been a series of unfortunate events, like you talked about. It's just been so unlucky for him. I don't know. I think honestly, I could understand, the move, but I don't know. I think we should try to incorporate him in this team, but it depends on him and what Dybala we see.
Dybala, trust me, Dybala loves you. He really wants to stay. He absolutely wants to play and score many more goals with Juventus. And to be honest, we need to also be careful when we judge information that we get from the journalists about the money, because we know like 5% of the full story. So let's try to be a little bit calm and give time to the parties to understand. What for sure he wants to stay, and I'm pretty sure that Juventus wants to continue with him. At this point, they need to find the financial agreement. That's important as well. I mean, the only thing I'm saying is that this season, with all these injuries, will not facilitate the things at this point, because clearly we're talking about a lot of money in a complicated period like this.
Yeah. I want to ask you just one question. If it were up to you, would you give Dybala the same money as De Ligt?
But
is he worth that much?
There is a difference in the taxes, because De Ligt has a special deal with the Italian government, so he gets less taxes. So let's talk net, okay?
Yeah.
Let's talk net. I will say yes. To me, Dybala and De Ligt are top players. De Ligt has probably a brighter future because he's younger, but Dybala has given a lot to Juventus. He's the number 10. I think we should rely on him. And of course, guys, in the end, it's also a matter of performance and what did he do this year? Almost nothing because he was injured. So a lot of parameters have to be evaluated. But if it was for me, I would try to keep Dybala. Yes.
Yeah, and believe it or not, because I feel the same. And I said if the money were the same as De Ligt's, to me, I think it's okay. But believe it or not, that's unpopular opinion these days. And many say he shouldn't get the same as De Ligt, but it is what it is. Everybody, like I said, it switched very, very quickly in terms of Dybala. But we'll see what happens. I hope he can hit the ground running, and if he can. There's been a few matches where we've struggled in just recently where he's the exact profile of what we need.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. And then, but this is mainly for me. Sometimes I remind myself that I am a fan and I should really be a fan. I am a fan of Juventus. Okay, so I should try as much as possible to support the team in the good and worst condition. Of course, it doesn't mean that you cannot be mad or that you cannot agree with something. Absolutely. But in principle, I don't like those that are always complaining with everything. Okay.
Yeah.
I mean, guys, we are lucky to have witnessed a dynasty. 9 years of our life, we have been enjoying, sometimes mad, but mostly enjoying successes for 9 years. And still today, there are people that are complaining on everything. And to me, it's crazy. This.
Maurizio, for me, it's like if you made it through 2006, it's not so bad. Like after that, this isn't so bad. It's a transitional period. But let's get to this.
And we keep winning, by the way.
Yeah, that's the thing. So extra time. We're gonna have some fun here. We'll take some questions from the live viewers. We got about 10 minutes with Maurizio here, and Colin coming in here with Maurizio. We chatted about Demiral a little while ago. Do you think he will stay? Is he still listening to offers?
I think he will stay. The only thing is that the club must once again remind him that he's a crucial part of the plan for the future. Demiral, sometimes I believe that he's thinking that he's not part of the plan. He believes that he's number 4 at the moment after Bonucci, after Chiellini, and after De Ligt. He knows very well that Chiellini and Bonucci cannot go forever, but he needs to feel the right feeling from the management. Okay, I think that is important for him at the moment. I think he will stay.
Yeah, and that would be great. I mean, I'd hate to see him go. Some of the number, and again, you said it perfectly. You can't believe everything you hear from the journalists or whatnot, but some of those massive claims of offers or whatnot, it's crazy. Some of the stuff that you end up hearing. But Demiral and De Ligt,
guys, Demiral is at the moment getting the lowest salary at Juventus after Pinsoglio and after Buffon. Okay, so he probably deserves more compared to the other players in the team. So from that perspective, it's a risk, because if a big club, like it happened, come with a big offer, he is a little bit, he needs to understand, because if at Juventus he doesn't feel as full part of the project, then of course he will evaluate. But he wants to stay here. He wants Juventus. He wants to prove himself at Juventus. He's only asking for Juventus to give him the right chances, and I'm confident. I think now it's going to happen, because with Chiellini injured, Bonucci injured, Demiral will always play. So now he has the chance to prove it once again that he's a Juventus player.
Yeah, absolutely. And I mean, we talked about it during the match, the luxury to have him come in when Chiellini goes out. Demiral and De Ligt is your future would be in great hands for quite a long time. So for me, he should make up one of the spines, right? Dat Calcio Boy coming in with, should Pirlo, I saw a lot of this yesterday, if we get bounced in the Champions League. But this is if we don't win the Scudetto. Should he be sacked? for me, it's a no if we don't get Scudetto. But Maurizio, your thoughts on people thinking he should go out?
No, for me it's a no as well. We are doing a project now at Juventus. A lot of young people, a lot of young players. We changed the coach. Again, if you believe that every year we can win, even when we change the coach and where we are going through all these difficulties around, I repeat, it's a little bit naive. We need to be patient, believe in the project, and I think we have the rights to believe, because so far Agnelli and the team, despite some issues, they have been successful for 9 years. So I think it's just reasonable to believe in the project, and to sack Pirlo after the first year, it will be again an error, because we will be back to square zero.
Yeah, absolutely. We just can't create this coaching carousel, and then we talked about it earlier on the show, is you have a team, okay, that looks different based on the personnel that he has in there. So at times it's amazing. We should focus on getting him the guys he wants, and then truly gauging. Sarri, people. My statement I just made now to Sarri and say, why didn't you get him the guys? Because the guys in the locker room didn't like him. So what are you going to do? Change an entire team for one man, or are you going to move along that one man? So for me, the change from Sarri was absolutely warranted. But Pirlo has the respect of the guys. He's doing a good job in terms of man management. And I think overall he's doing a good job. And I like the fact that he's incorporating these young players, and they are getting opportunity.
Yeah, but also, let's be honest, how many of us, when Pirlo was appointed, were believing that we were going to win the Scudetto? Probably 1 out of 100. Now all these people that are asking this question is because they are smelling the possibility to win the Scudetto. It means that we have already done more than what we were expecting, probably. So guys, I would say let's give time to Pirlo. Let's give him time to train properly the players, and let's give him the players that he needs. If he doesn't have a left wing, if he doesn't have proper fullbacks, and he always play with the people in different positions, if he doesn't have a backup for Arthur, if he doesn't have a backup of number 9, there is not much one can do.
Yeah, and that's just it. I just think coaching carousel would be awful to create at Juventus. We need to get some consistency, in my opinion. Luis coming in with, Maurizio, how many beers do you owe us when the stadium's finally open?
Guys, I'm ready to give beer to everybody. I can't wait. Trust me.
Yeah, I know.
I put some money aside. I will spend all of them. The first stadium games, I will offer beer to everybody.
That's amazing. That's amazing. I mean, I can't wait for that. That's one of the things. It's just, it's something I can't get used to, is watching the match with no fans in the stadium.
Man, disaster. Don't tell me.
Yeah. Let's get to in terms of transfers. Look at Idris coming in. Maurizio invite Pogba for a couple of beers so he could come. Let me ask you, who's one player, just one player, you really, really hope Juventus adds in the summer? We know that the talks are there for Locatelli, Aouar, DePaul, Pogba's in the mix. Who's one guy? Is it even one of those guys? Is it somebody else that you have eyes on? Like, who's one guy you really want Juve to add in the summer?
No, the biggest regret I have is not dated last summer, but last winter, when we could have got Alan. So to me, that is the biggest regret, because with a reasonable amount of money at that time, we could have secured a fantastic player, which now is gone. So that is my biggest regret. Last summer, definitely, I was expecting a strong midfielder. I don't know too much about Aouar. I don't know how do you say Aouar. Simply because I just watched him a couple of times, so I cannot judge. Okay, Locatelli is a good player, but I'm not sure he would have done the difference. He probably needed time to develop into what we were expecting. So to me, a player like Milinkovic, Savic, or Pogba, they could both be beneficial for us for sure. We still lack a strong character in the midfield. Huh?
Yeah, absolutely. There's no doubt. You still just need one of those guys, but you need one of those guys that can even be on a bad match, but have the quality to break the game through with one pass or whatnot. You know, I really see that passing range out of the middle that we just don't have. Someone that could spot the run, has the vision, and can actually drop the ball in there, you know. And it's a big difference when you watch a lot of the other clubs in Europe play, and not only in Europe, but even in Serie A, you see a lot of them set up. They have these guys that can do it. De Paul is one that many say is not good enough for Juve, but he can do that. We just don't have that guy in the middle of the park that'll grab the game by the scruff of the neck and say, "Look, like."
I think we are a prisoner of those multi-million signing of players that were not for free, but I think that is something that is dragging us down. I need to finish. I just want to be optimistic, to conclude in an optimistic way and say that if we are able to advance against Porto, we will most likely face a team that is much stronger, and that is where Juventus can really become tough. Not because we are superior, but because we become tough in those type of games where we are underdogs. So anything can really happen. And we might find the perfect game and Ronaldo scoring 2 goals and advance even against Manchester City. So anything can happen.
Absolutely. Of course. Absolutely, anything can happen. And I know Maurizio has to go. This is going to conclude the podcast. Thank you so much for joining me again, Maurizio. It's been fantastic. Thank you, everybody who's joined in live.
Thanks for the question.
The Scudetto race, it's not over either. It's got a long way to go. We're in the mix. Overall, there's still a lot to be optimistic about because it is a transitional year. And like Maurizio said, Pirlo has already surpassed many of our expectations. So let's all relax. Let's have some faith and see what the guys can do.
And in the worst case, we will get a lot of beers together, okay?
There you go. There you go. All right, everybody. We will be back after the next match versus Crotone in Serie A. And I'll have another guest joining me there. And I have something special lined up for you guys this Saturday morning. Again, live at 5. It's going to be the first ever hot takes debate, okay, where we have 2 Juventini that will be facing off on a hot topic, and you definitely don't want to miss that, okay? First time ever. It's going to be a lot of fun. Probably going to get heated, but that's all good, and I'll just be hanging out with my popcorn. Maybe not popcorn at 5 a.m., but I'll be enjoying the show and maybe mediating a bit, okay? But make sure you tune into that. It's going to be a lot of fun. So the promo will come out on social media later today. Thank you all for joining. This was a great episode. Always great to have Maurizio in. Make sure you stay tuned to his feed for what he's going to reveal in terms of meeting Dybala last week. That was cool. I didn't even actually know that he did that. But let's all try to get over what happened with the positive note that Chiesa's away goal, the first scored by somebody other than Ronaldo since he joined in a Champions League knockout, okay? That gives us a lifeline, and it might be all we need because, like I say, once we get through, you get stronger being through these adverse situations, like Maurizio said. Always have faith in the team, and, remember, we're all fans, and it is what it is. Sometimes, you got to go through these moments in order to grow, right? Sometimes you do have to take 2 steps back in order to move forward. So let's have faith in the guys. see what they can do. I'll see you all on the weekend. Thank you, everybody, again, who tuned in. If you are just tuning in for the first time, please drop a like on the video, hit the subscribe button. A lot of good Juve content coming up for you for the rest of the season. Ciao, and as always, Forza Juve, fino alla fine.